Thank you, Caroline. As Caroline mentioned, we are very fortunate to have Coach Dean as our speaker today on the opening day of March Madness. Coach Dean first became a student of the game of basketball as a 3-year letterman at Mississippi State, where he earned his bachelor's and master's degrees in education. It was his experience as a player that led him to become the graduate assistant at Mississippi State, an assistant coach at Kentucky, where he was part of the 1978 national championship team. He then went on to be the head coach at Birmingham-Southern, where he eventually earned his place in the BSC Sports Hall of Fame. And lastly, he ended his head coaching career at the University of Central Florida. After his stint at Central Florida, Coach Dean moved back to Birmingham to serve as Vice President of Sales and Marketing for the Colonnade Group. And 6 years later, he returned to BSC to serve in his current role as Athletic Director. During his 11-year tenure, he has been responsible for the difficult transitioning process from NAIA to Division I, and then also from Division I to Division III. He's raised over $10 million to support BSC athletics. He's launched the BSC Sports Show, Football Review, and Radio Network, and added multiple new sports programs and has the Panthers poised to compete at a high level when they become eligible next year. Outside of BSC, Coach Dean is well known for being the TV color analyst for SEC basketball and is a regular on the Jocks Radio Network. He has served on the NCAA Men's Basketball Rules Committee, is currently on the selection committee for the Alabama Sports Hall of Fame. He's the chairman of community relations for the PapaJohns.com Ball, serves on the board of directors for the Bryant Jordan Scholar Athlete Foundation, the Changed Lives Christian Center, and the Friends of Rick Wood. He's an active member of Asbury Methodist Church and is past president of the Kiwanis Club here in Birmingham. Coach Dean and his wife, Ellen, have been married for 34 years and have 2 children, Scott and Leslie. Give you Coach Dean.
Thank you, Richard. Good job. Thank you, Richard. It's always great to see a lot of familiar faces, and certainly Richard being one of our former student athletes, although Jay Billis today on ESPN made it clear that they're not student athletes, they're students in the classroom, they're players on the field and the court. So I didn't know if y'all were aware of that, but I thought I'd share that with you today. They're not student athletes. They're either students or they're athletes, one or the other. Jay Billis is kind of the guru of intellectual commentary, so we'll go ahead and go along with him today. I want to first begin by saying how as a former president of the Kiwanis Club of Birmingham, which is the largest Kiwanis club in the world, and we like to say the best Kiwanis club in the world, I want to say how proud we are of you and of what you all are doing with this Rotaract Club. We keep a close eye on what you're doing. We read about you in the newspaper. We know a lot of you as young professionals and hope that maybe one day you might become members of our organization, Kiwanis. I know you're affiliated with Rotary, which is fine, but you're not locked into that. You can kind of go either way. But I just want to tell you how impressed, and on a personal note, how impressed I am with this club. I think it's just wonderful how you all have come together, how you've made it work, how you're dedicated to your service organization, your service opportunities, and having your gala this weekend and being here and meeting twice a month. I think really speaks highly of your commitment to, one, wanting to be the best professional you can be, but two, more importantly, wanting to give back to the community. That's why Birmingham is such a great place to live. It's why I chose back in 1993 to move back to Birmingham to put roots down here, because I wanted my children to grow up in this community, and I wanted them to be a part of what I feel is a very loving, caring, philanthropic community. And the reason that it's that way is because of people like you and organizations like this. So I applaud you for what you're doing. I'm honored to be here today to share some thoughts and some things with you, and I'm going to kind of bounce around a little bit. I'm not going to just talk about basketball. We'll get into that a little bit at the end, and then if you want to ask some specific questions relative to basketball, I'm more than happy to try to answer that. But I've got several things I want to kind of share with you today, and a lot of it would be informational. But I want to begin by touching on my relationship with Tom Yielding. Now, you know, Tom Yielding, Caroline, are you sure you know what you're getting yourself into? Because we need to have a little heart-to-heart. It's like my daughter's getting ready to get married this summer. And when her fiance came to me to ask for her hand in marriage, I said, certainly I would love and be honored for you, David, to have my daughter's hand in marriage. But the first question I have to ask, do you know what you're getting yourself into? See, I know this girl, and she is a handful, and he's going to marry her anyway. You know, what can I tell you? Tom Yielding wanted to be a basketball player. He wanted to be a great basketball player. And his father, Richard, who's a good friend of mine, who's a Birmingham-Southern grad, asked me would I work with Tom and would I help him. And I said to Richard, I said, well, Richard, you got to understand something. To be a great basketball player, you have to really be able to think quickly in a pressure situation. You got to be fast on your feet. Basketball is a fast game. It's up and down. It's a reactionary game. It's not like that game with the oblong ball where you run a play, you stop, you talk about it for 30 seconds, and then you run another play. You know, I mean, anybody can play that foolish game. You know, to be a basketball player, go up and down the court quickly, you got to be quick of mind. You got to think fast. You got to be able to make quick decisions under pressure. Well, his dad, Richard, said, you know, I don't know. Tom's kind of scattered. You know, I don't know if he is or not. He said, but, you know, I know that he has a job. I said, does he work outside of school and basketball? Yeah, he has a job bagging groceries over at the local Piggly Wiggly grocery store. I said, that's perfect. I'll go over and observe him over there and see if I can find out anything about his work ethic, his mannerisms, how he handles himself in a professional work environment. So I went over to the Piggly Wiggly, and I'm kind of hiding around the magazine stand, and Tom's in there bagging groceries, and I'm telling you, doing an unbelievable job. I mean, everything is yes, ma'am, and no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, sir. He's hustling those bags of groceries out to the car. Just spectacular. Doing a tremendous job. Well, all of a sudden, Anna, good to see you. When do you do, Anna? You big as a house. My goodness. Good luck with that baby. Anna's a Birmingham-Southern grad, so I can get away with that. I can get away with that. Good luck with the baby. Is that your first? Okay. All right, anyway, back to the story. Into the Piggly Wiggly walks this big 6'8", 250-pound monster. This big old guy, big and ugly. And he walks right up to Tom. And he looks down, he says, hey, he says, I want you to get me a half a head of lettuce. Now, you know, Tom, you know, he's been well educated, Mountain Brook school system, all of that. And, you know, Mom and Dad are both educated people. And he kind of thought for a second, he said, sir, you know, I'm not sure about that. Let me walk to the back of the store and ask my boss. So as Tom is walking to the back of the store, unbeknownst to him, this big 6'8", 250-pound monster is walking right behind him. Tom doesn't see him. Tom gets to the back of the store and he says, hey, boss. He says, some big, dumb, ugly-looking guy in the front of the store wants a half a head of lettuce. And his boss's eyes got about that big. And Tom looked back over his shoulder. He said, yeah, he said, this guy wants the other half. The Kiwanis Club got that joke. The other half, you know, thought quick. Fans, all right, forget it. Richard, help me. It's a tough crowd. Let me share a couple of things. I want to talk about two institutions. This is more, excuse me, informational. I have been privileged the last 14 years to be involved in a Bible study group on Monday mornings at Mountain Chapel United Methodist Church on Rocky Ridge Road over in Vestavia. And we study the Bible and what have you and share a lot of things. About 3.5 years ago, we're in the room, and the talk of helping others and doing things that we could do to help those less fortunate than us came up. And I made the comment, I said, you know, we live in a community here in Birmingham that is very, very wealthy. We live in a community that literally could take care of poverty, could take care of every homeless man and woman imaginable if we all decided as a community that we wanted to do that. I said, that's why Habitat for Humanity became what it was, because one person decided that there was a need to build a house for a family that didn't have a place to live. And so they built that house for that family, and it mushroomed, and now it is an international ministry of trying to help people less fortunate have affordable housing. Well, a man in our Bible study group by the name of Ken Sanford took that to heart that day and decided that God had touched his life and wanted him to build a facility for homeless men. He put his life on hold for about 3 years and literally started the journey of building a facility that could house homeless men, give them a place to live for up to 2 years, give them a place to have meals, to have employment, to get health care, spiritual guidance, all of those things so they could get their lives back together and get back into productive society. The things that he went through in order to put this together was unbelievable. You can imagine trying to go through the city government here and all the hoops you had to jump through to make that work. But long story short, the city of Birmingham committed $2 million to this project. A family by the name of the Berman family donated 14 acres of land out off of Finley Boulevard, right next to a SIPCO. And this past September, we moved our first homeless man into the Changed Lives Christian Center. Now, I only tell you that to say that we are trying to create awareness with our ministry because it is something we feel like is, one, very needed in Birmingham, and two, we're hoping over time can transform homelessness here in this community. So I wanted you to be aware of that. We are having our second annual leadership luncheon on May the 24th. We had it in this room last June. Nick Saban came to speak to us. As a matter of fact, it's funny because this year we've got Gene Chizik speaking, and those of us in our Bible group believe that God, the way He works in mysterious ways, and He decided to help the Changed Lives Christian Center that He would allow Alabama to win the national championship so we could have Nick Saban speak at our fundraiser to raise a ton of money, which we did last year, about $125,000. And then this next year, God allowed Auburn to win the national championship so that He would send Gene Chizik to speak at our leadership luncheon, and we're hoping to do the same thing. So if you're interested in that, you can go on our website, or you could ask me if you all would be interested in coming to hear Coach Chizik. We're also going to honor a man named Richard Simmons, who I know Tom knows, and some of you may be aware has a ministry in town called the Center for Executive Leadership, and he wrote a book called The True Measure of a Man, talking about being a Christian in tough economic times. So very interesting, and we're going to have a great time with that. I just wanted to make you all aware of that. Second thing, I wanted to kind of just touch a little bit on Birmingham-Southern. Obviously, you read the newspaper, and you know we've gone through some pretty tough times here in the last year financially. But I think the worst is behind us. We are moving in a very positive direction and getting ready to hire a brand new president. As a matter of fact, we're hoping that it's going to be a gentleman who's been on campus in the last week, General Chuck Kerlack, who is a retired 4-star general in the United States Marine Corps. So we're kind of looking forward to that. But we're still very proud of what Birmingham-Southern is all about, what it stands for. We're still one of the top 100 liberal arts colleges in America, providing great undergraduate education. And we're very pleased about our faculty, our staff, and where we're heading in the future. And Richard mentioned that, of course, we are transitioning athletically from Division I to Division III, and that's gone pretty well. It really has. We're in our last year of that transition. We will be eligible for conference championships this next year. Our men's basketball team just won the conference championship. Our baseball team right now is ranked 9th in the country, and we think we're going to continue to have successful athletic programs as we have for many, many years. We also started football. Don't know if you all are aware of that, but we built a $12 million football stadium on our campus, and we just finished our 4th year of playing football in the Southern Collegiate Athletic Conference. One of the things that you do when you're in an athletic conference is you kind of identify who the top teams are, and those are the teams, obviously, that you shoot for, that you try to go after to compete for the championship in your league. A few years ago, Millsaps College from Jackson, Mississippi, upset Trinity University, they're out of San Antonio, for the football championship. This has been 3 years ago. It was the first time in 14 years, and anyone other than Trinity